Welcome back to STIX Baseball Podcast, where we talk game, gear, culture, and all things baseball. I'm your host, TJ. Let's roll. Let's look at what's happening inside the league right now as spring training seems to be rapidly approaching. One thing I've taken note is young players are taking over. MLB is getting younger, more athletic across the board. Teams are valuing versatility, athletic defenders, speed, players who can do multiple things well. You don't see too many one-tool players sticking around anymore. Key takeaway right now is that the big leagues are showing us that athleticism and fundamentals still matter in today's game. Another note, pitching trends, not that this is new, but over the last decade or so, teams are being more careful with their pitchers. Fewer complete games, fewer innings pitched, more bullpen usage for pitch counts. What that tells us is even at the highest level, teams are protecting arms. So when youth baseball ignores those things, I think there's a disconnect. Although it is pretty impressive seeing some of these Japanese pitchers that have come into the league with the amount of pitches and innings they're able to sustain over long periods of time. So we could maybe see a trend towards pitchers' longevity. However, I still think people are weary to let players go too long. MLB is leaning towards longevity, availability, and health. And as the saying goes, the best ability is availability. I think that needs to trickle on down to young players at younger levels as well. We see a lot of 12-year-olds running out there, 100-plus pitches. Their arms, their bodies are still growing. So I think our thinking or thought process behind coaching some of these younger players needs to align more with what we're seeing at a professional level. Okay, changing gears a little bit, we're going to move on to league transactions that have been taking place this week. A few names that are moving around. Now, we're getting pretty close to spring training, so teams are kind of ramping up, filling their squads, making moves, moving players around, moving money around. So this isn't everything that's been happening. However, a couple big names. One I wanted to start with is that the Red Sox have signed Ranger Suarez to a 5-year, $130 million deal. I really love this move. He's been clutch in some big games for the Phillies throughout his career. He has a no-hitter under his belt, 2016. He's 30 years old, so he's been around and matured, but he still has plenty of life left in the tank. My opinion, this is a home run. It's a great signing by the Red Sox. I think it's a step in the right direction of their little rebuild that they've been going through. So I'm excited for that. I think that's a good move for them. Rumors that the Yankees and Brewers are close to a potential Freddie Peralta blockbuster. My opinion, the Yankees need to try and make this happen. Freddie was 4th last year in ERA at 2.7, 7th in Ks at 2.04, and 13th in WHIP at 1.08. If they don't go after Skeens, I think they need to make sure this Peralta deal happens, or both. But definitely one of the two. This is an organization that is really looking for solid pitching, which has been a lot of what's let them down over the last few years. So I think one of those two things or both needs to happen for the Yankees before this season gets too far along. Couple notes on the international front. The San Francisco Giants have signed number 1 international prospect, a 17-year-old Venezuelan shortstop, Luis Hernandez, for a reported $5 million. Probably a year or two before we see much or hear much of him. However, something to keep on the radar. On that same note, both the Cardinals and Royals also signing top 10 international prospects. So we can expect in the coming years, the league will continue to get younger and more diverse. And I wasn't going to end this segment without talking about maybe the biggest free agent name that's still out there or was out there up until just recently, which is Kyle Tucker. I really thought the Blue Jays were going to land him. I thought they were getting close on a deal. I know the Mets had offered somewhere in the range of $50 million a year. But it does not come as a shock to me or probably anybody that he lands with the Dodgers this morning with a deal of 4 years, $240 million. That's $60 million a year, making him the second highest paid player, which is just wild to me. Again, like I mentioned, I really thought The Blue Jays were going to go hard for Kyle Tucker, um, especially where they just came up short last year, and some of these other teams that were maybe a piece or two away from being in real contention. However, like I mentioned, I don't think it's a shock to anybody that the Dodgers went all in and made it happen. And you can't blame him for going to go play alongside some of those other names for that kind of money. It's hard to fault a guy for wanting to do that. So we'll see if anyone this year can pose a real serious threat in a 7-game series to the Dodgers. I think it's going to be tough, but it is early. Still a lot of teams taking shape. So we will wait to make a prediction on that. Okay, moving on to our next segment here. We're going to introduce a new portion of the show. I've had a lot of people reach out interested in calling in or coming on and talking a little baseball. So I think that's going to be a regular thing. Our first guest, I'll introduce him before we have him call in. His name's Kyle. He's from Central Utah. Says he's a big fan of the podcast and a few pages and some of the work I do. He's also a big Rangers fan. So we're going to talk a little bit about Rangers, outlook of the season, new manager, a few things like that. Not to mention, he's also my brother. So not a surprise. He's the first one to get onto the podcast, but we'll be doing much more of it. So let's have Kyle called in and we'll talk a little baseball. Okay, we're welcoming in our first guest on the STIX Baseball Podcast. This is Kyle, our resident Rangers fan. How you doing, Kyle?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you on. So we're just going to run down through a few questions I've got for you, and we'll just see where it takes us. Talk a little baseball.
Sounds great.
So, Kyle, from a fan's perspective, how are you feeling about the Rangers heading into this season?
I'm actually I'm really excited. I'm in a lot of the fan groups. Got a lot of friends in the realm, and everybody's got some mixed feelings. Obviously, with some of the bigger blockbuster trade style moves that they made, but new manager coming in, everybody's pretty excited about that. It goes without saying that I think everybody was really thankful for the time with Bruce Bochy bringing the first World Series to the Texas Rangers, but it is kind of interesting. No matter how high of a level you're at in the game, like someone like Bruce Bochy is legendary, right? If you're not producing results, they'll make changes, right? So that is one cool thing about baseball is you've got to produce or they'll move on from you. So I think everybody's excited for a new manager and kind of a little bit of a fresh start. So
yeah, I mean, you love them, players love them, you love the season, but at the end of the day, it's still a business, right? So if you fall short, it's on to the next.
Yep.
I assume you belong to a lot of like the fan forums online, reading what other Rangers fans are thinking. Would you say the vibe around the team is optimistic? Is it kind of cautious? Is it, we'll wait and see what happens? Are we going to be patient with, how the season starts, things like that? Or what is people thinking right now?
So it's kind of a 50-50 type of deal. There's a lot of people who are pretty upset with losing like Adolis Garcia, Marcus Semien,
Yeah.
a couple of those guys that were huge as far as 2023 in the World Series win there. But there's also several who I would say I'm on the more optimistic boat of it. While you can always thank those guys for those times, I'm excited to see Brandon Nimmo in there. I am bummed. Marcus Semien, very good second baseman there, but it was a smart move because they've actually got several guys internally in the organization that can fill that second base slot. So it made a lot more sense to trade for a big outfielder like that. Garcia, he wasn't really producing anyway. But yeah, in the groups, everybody's a little bit bummed to see some like fan favorites, I guess, go away. But I think everybody's kind of optimistic because it's a little bit of a rebuild, but there's still plenty of experience that they should easily be competitive. So that's exciting.
Yeah. It's always tough to see household names or guys people have gravitated to, have emotional attachments to move on like that. But like we said, at the end of the day, it's a business and you got to do what makes sense for the books too.
Yep, for sure.
If you had to say one thing this team does really well right now, what would you say?
Right now, I would say our strongest point is definitely pitching. And we did lose one or two guys, but we've picked a couple up on waivers or stuff that people have non-tendered on other teams. But our starting rotation is very solid. In my opinion, of course, I'm biased, but one of the better starting rotations in baseball, and then a really strong bullpen. So I'd say pitching for sure is something we do really well, and maybe the least of the stresses kind of going into the year where there's a lot of big hitters, but the end of the year last year, it was the hitting is what really held us back. So I would
Yeah,
say pitching for sure is something we're doing really well right now.
I would agree. I think I would expect them, even off the get go here, to contend for that division. I don't think that division is, head and shoulders above the rest. I think that they'll be right in the mix from the get go.
Yep, and we did see it through a lot of the year last year, but there's nothing cooler than a healthy Jacob DeGrom. So that's one thing that I can't get over myself is just knowing that he's healthy, he's feeling good. The end of the year last year really gave us some hope for going into this year that we can have a if you can keep him healthy and doing good for a whole season, you're pretty
Yeah, and that's been his right Achilles heel his whole career is just the health thing. But when he is quote unquote healthy and on the mound, I don't think anyone would argue he's probably the best pitcher in the world. So if they can somehow navigate keeping him in the rotation, that is going to be tough to contend with for sure. Let's see what else I got for you. Do you feel like there's like a different identity or approach compared to previous seasons? Like, obviously, there's a lot of changing faces, new people in, old people out. I think a good core group is still there. Do you feel like there might be some rejuvenation or a different feeling moving into this season?
yeah, I do. A lot of the guys that they've had coming off the bench, even the last few years, one comes to mind is like Josh Smith, who
Yeah.
I personally see filling that void at second base most of the time. But I don't know if you've paid much attention, but he can play anywhere, right? They've played him just about anywhere, and so I like that. Even with the new guys getting a lot more playing time and stuff, it's still not completely new. They've been around it. They're kind of in the program. They know the guys in the clubhouse. I think they kind of have something to prove to kind of show, hey, this wasn't a one-time thing a few years ago when we won. It wasn't just a luck of the draw thing. Like, we've got a good program. And a lot of those guys have moved on, but there are still a few core guys that were part of that World Series. So I think with some fresh blood, I think they've got something to prove.
Yeah, like you said, we might classify it as a small rebuild, but this isn't a start from scratch situation. There's a lot of veterans there who have World Series experience. Corey Seager, right? Multi World Series. Those new guys that are going to be filling roles, they got some time last year. They're not going to be fresh off the get goes here. So a rebuild, yes, but maybe not so. Um,
Inexperienced, probably.
yeah,
More of like a revamp and not as much of a rebuild, I think. There obviously there's some new guys there, but there's not really gonna be, like, very many guys that haven't had playing time, in bigger stuff too, bigger scenarios and things like that, so,
yeah, maybe a revamp or retooling as opposed to a
yep.
full tear down rebuild. So that's good to hear. As a Rangers fan, what's the biggest thing you want from this new manager? I mean, what is it you're looking for? Is it consistency, accountability, creativity? Are we looking for big changes? Are we just looking for, you know, results? What is as a Rangers fan, what are we asking from this guy?
I think we're just looking for mainly results. I think, the same goal that everybody has, like, we wanna be watching baseball in October,
Sure.
deep
Absolutely.
into October, and so I think, now I'm not saying it's impossible that they make it all the way, right? I think they've got the potential to go clear to the, World Series, but I think a realistic thing from a fan would be these guys wanna see some playoff baseball for sure. That and to me, that would be a successful first season, and then he can kind of adjust from there and move on, but, I don't know, I think mainly just results. I think we want to, I think if I could be wrong, so don't quote me, but I think we finished under 500 for sure, and if not, we were toying right there with it. But But yeah, just results. We want to have a winning season and go deep into October, I think is what everybody's after.
Yeah, reasonable ask. Just about what every fan's looking for to see their team, right,
Yep.
play in October and at least take a shot at it. Um, who do you think needs to step up as a player for the Rangers to really to make a run?
Well, probably gosh, they're all so good, but in a couple different ways. Evan Carter being one who you're going to see in the outfield a lot. He
Yeah,
is great, and when he's on, he's really on. He is definitely battled with injury a lot, so he could step up in a way of health, hopefully. Um, and then one that comes to mind is you're probably going to see Jake Berger at first base most of the time.
yeah.
Um, he he's about the only one in the infield that can kind of go up and down as far as hitting goes. Right, pretty solid in the infield, but yeah, I would say Jake Berger probably. If he can be consistent, I think the rest of them are gonna do pretty good too, and maybe even Corey Seager. He's a leader of the team. People kind of feed off of his energy,
Yeah.
things like that. So maybe Corey Seager even just doing what he normally does, right? Staying healthy and hitting the ball. I think everybody's gonna follow suit.
I think that's the biggest key. I mean, we talked about DeGrom, right? Right. If Seager can stay healthy, I don't remember the last time a healthy Seager season was below average, right? The guy's incredible.
Yep.
So if he can stay on the field, that would be huge. What
Yep.
what's the biggest question mark on this team? What's or a roster, I guess I should say. Who's a leering name that you're like, man, I just really don't know about this guy?
Um, I would say, gosh, it really was for me, not to call him out, but it was Adolis Garcia before and Jonah Heim before.
Yeah.
Um, so right now I'm feeling really, really good with those changes. I do have a I don't know that you'd call it a soft spot, but man, I really like Kyle Higashioka as a catcher.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
veteran guy. Uh, he would also going back to your previous question, he'd be one that if he could step up and just kind of stay on his game, he's a leader on and off the field as well. But um, yeah, I don't know if that really answers your question, but that's a few things that kind of come to mind.
No, yeah, that's I like that. Um, and if you were to, I mean, what's one thing that's going to hold this team back if they don't get where they want, they don't reach their goals, what the fans expect of them? What would you say? What's the one thing that's going to frustrate this team if they don't get there?
If you're saying like what's going to cause them to not get there,
Yeah,
um,
like if
I would
they're
if they were going to struggle with anything, it's going to be hitting, in my opinion. And it's not that there's a lot of great hitters, and what's wild about this lineup is every one of them hits with power. It wouldn't be crazy 1 through 9 to send one over the fence. It's just a matter of you know not
can
so
they
much of a
manufacture?
roller coaster. If the guys can just hit because there's several Gold Glove style guys in the infield. Josh Young, in my opinion, one of the best third basemen. Corey Seager next to him. I'm sure you'll see Josh Smith most of the time, would be my guess at second, and then Jake Berger. But the field's great. We've got a new outfield with Nimmo, Wyatt Langford, who I haven't even mentioned. Um, what a gifted dude. He kind of reminds me of like a young Mike Trout. Like he just kind of just he has a lot of potential, I guess is what I'm getting at with him. But I think I don't think they struggle with pitching, and I don't think they're struggling with fielding. It's going to be a hitting game for the Rangers, I think.
Manufacturing runs outside of the long ball.
Yep, and on that one thing that and I'm obviously just coaching from the couch most of the time here, but one thing that they haven't done in the last couple years, and I don't know if it's a Bruce Bochy thing or if it's just the guys we have, but I would really like us to place, steal some bases, bunt once in a while, like play some real baseball. We
Yeah.
really we get a lot of guys on base. We have a lot of smart hitters who can get a walk, and get on base, but we're not stealing bases. And we had Marcus Simeon last year. We have Evan Carter, Wyatt Langford, few of the fastest guys in the whole league. and we're not stealing any bases. I think that's a lot of our problem too. So that's
I
one thing
totally
I'd like
agree.
to see anyway is some small ball bunting to move some runners around, um, and let's steal some bases.
Yeah, I don't think you're in the minority thinking that. I think even league wide, we'd love to see more of that around the league. So,
Yeah.
yeah, great answers. Thanks. We're gonna move on from some of the Rangers questions. I won't keep you too much longer. I got a few just kind of big picture league wide questions. So, just want to hear your opinion. You look around the league. Who do you think is best set up for going into the season now? Who's on top right now? Who do you think?
Well, I hate to admit it, but you can't deny that the Dodgers are in a great spot, right? They went back to back. Nobody's done that in a very long time, and they've honestly just kind of gotten stronger through the offseason. They've made a couple additions that are
Yeah,
great. I know it is controversial. I'm not a diehard Dodgers guy myself, but yeah, when you've got almost what is it, $2 billion
yeah,
payroll, right? I mean, they should be on top, but yeah, they've got a lot of talent. I would say that they're obviously going to be up there. Probably the dog. I mean, the Mariners still going to be really good, and then biased, of course. But I'd love to see the Rangers up there with them. But yeah, I think the Dodgers right now are really probably the guys to beat for sure.
yeah. And if you say anybody else is on top, you're probably not paying attention, right?
Yep.
They're uh, they're kind of crazy right now. Is there a team that you think people are sleeping on? Who's a sleeper pick to make a deep run this year? But not the
Yeah.
Rangers, not the
Yeah.
Rangers.
I do. It's got to be the Cubs. I don't know how
Okay.
you feel about that, but
Yeah.
um, they're solid, man. And with they've got Bregman now. They've made some other good additions. I really see the Cubs kind of being a little bit like the silent killer. Like you're just kind of going through the season, and next thing you know, you're getting closer to playoff time, and oh my goodness, they're up there at the top. So I would say the Cubs are going to be the guys that kind of come back. It's probably what's it been 10 or 12 years since they finally got the World Series win.
Yeah. Yep.
Maybe not
10.
quite. I don't know, 10.
Yep.
But yeah, I see them making a run at it and kind of coming out unexpected. If you haven't paid attention in the off season, you really won't expect it. So
Yeah. No, I think I agree with you. I think the Cubs are s- are sneaky good right now. Couple last questions for you. Do you feel like the gap between contenders and rebuilding teams is shrinking or growing? We know, it's a money game. The Dodgers have uh, a lot of money invested, right? Yankees, Mets, everybody's throwing dollars at everything. What's your thoughts on
I think it's
you know?
growing because of money, and there is all those rumors and talks that maybe it ends up in a lockout because of this kind of a thing.
Right,
Um, but there, and I'm definitely being not anti Dodger, but annoyed a little bit. Like you still can't deny that all these other teams have the same opportunities they do to spend money. Maybe they don't have the money, right? But everybody can defer payments like they're doing. Everybody can do all that kind of stuff. They're just not doing it. So
right.
um, I do think that it's growing because of this. It's a money thing for sure. But I don't know what the answer is, I guess, but I think if someone wants it bad enough, they can figure it out too. So the Dodgers they're just going for it.
They're going for it. They're gonna rack up as many wins and championships as they can, and I think everybody sees down the road that our league's gonna put their foot down on this eventually. But I mean, they're just gonna grab as many as they can while they can. Um, Rule changes or league trends do you see having a big impact on this season? I know, off camera, we've talked about a few different things, whether it was rule changes in the past or things that are coming this year or in the future. Give me some thoughts on that before I let you go.
Yeah. So the obvious one is going to be the automated ball strike stuff for
Yeah.
sure. Will be a big deal. That's pretty obvious. Going a few years back, yeah, I'm a big Max Scherzer fan, and whether it's just his excuse and he's just getting old or he's onto something, but the pitch clock is such a controversial rule,
Yeah.
right? Because It is nice, just you're watching the game, it's nice to have it sped up a little bit and everything, but the uptick in arm injuries
Factor for
related
sure.
related to that, I can't help but think there's something there. That's what Max Scherzer says. It is hard to you're not resting as much in between stuff, right? So, and you
Yeah.
only so many. And I talk from a pitcher standpoint, just because that's what interests me, right? Growing up as a pitcher, but only you can only get so many pickoffs and things like that, and like that's how if you needed a breather, man, that's how you used to be able to do it, right?
That
And
step
so,
off. Yeah.
yep, something doesn't feel right in the arm, whatever, step off, walk around a little bit, and get back on, and now they're kind of pushing through that a little bit. So, that's one that's still on my mind, even though it's a couple years old as far as rules. I just kind of I go back and forth on because as a fan, I like it, but I see their point as pitchers. I think it's causing problems. So,
Oh, okay. Okay, before I let you go, got a couple rapid fire questions for you. Just want you
okay.
to, off the top of your head, give me your MVP pick for this upcoming year.
Well, I'd like to say that it's going to be Corey Seager or somebody, but you really can't deny like guys like Shohei Ohtani. I know that's just everybody says, but it is what it is, right? Um, but I'll go bias, I guess, since it's rapid fire. We're gonna see Corey Seager turn it on and get the new clan into the World Series and win it.
I like it. World Series matchup. Sounds like you got the Rangers. Who we playing?
Call me crazy here, but I'd like to see a rematch, Rangers Diamondbacks again.
Okay.
Just just cause I think that I don't think it's out of the question the Diamondbacks are going to be good. Um, I think I'd like to see a rematch again.
Okay, cool. And biggest surprise team at the end of the year, who are we going to be looking back at and going, man, I did not think they were going to be that good.
Yep, kind of touched on this already. I'm going to go with the Cubs on this one. I think not that they were bad, but I think they're going to surprise everybody. And maybe you could throw in the Rockies because it can't get much worse, right? So maybe they
uh,
surprise everybody and get a couple wins. Yeah, that's it, man. If they can snag a couple wins, I think everybody's going to be surprised.
All right. Well, Kyle, appreciate you jumping on. I think, fan perspectives matter just as much as, stats. The game's built on emotion, fan interactions. Stick around. We've got some more talking points and some opinions coming up. But Kyle, thanks for hopping on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate your show.
All right, we'll see you later.
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna shift gears for just a minute. We're gonna talk about some development myths. Some of this is my opinion. So you can disagree, that's okay. Some of this is going to be uh, pretty factual as well. Myth number one, playing year round makes you better. Now, you would think playing more often would give you more opportunity to grow, to develop. And in some cases, that's true. I think reality is it often can just make you tired. Bodies need breaks, brains need rests, resets. And if you're not intentional about the reps you're doing, then more often than not, you're going to develop bad habits anyway. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't play a lot. I just think it is, I guess, ignorant to say that because you play more, that you are better. Where in my experience, multi sport athletes, people who put the glove down for a couple weeks, months, whatever it may be, and try something else. They go shoot hoops, they play football, whatever it is that they do. They tend to move better, they stay healthier, and there's less burnout. Their bodies adapt and recover better. You don't overtrain one motion or area. I mean, even look at the pros, right? There's an off season for a reason. Now, that's not to say that they're not in the cage hitting, pitchers aren't out on the mound experimenting with new grips. Of course, all that happens. But there is, 3.5, 4 months of, hey, let me take it easy. Let me not do anything too intense. And I think that's good. We've got 12 to 14-year-olds who are playing 300 games a year sometimes, different tournaments, uh, playing all year long. If it's cold where they live, they drive to where it's not. I think once in a while that's fine, but overall, I think you got to have variety. So myth number one, playing year round makes you better, not necessarily. Myth number two, velocity is everything. Velocity matters, right? Eventually, but early on in a player's development, command matters more, mechanics matter more, confidence matters more, development, how a kid should play, throw, whatever it may be. But chasing the gun is fun. So that is it's tough to get a kid or a coach or a dad to understand. I get a lot of dads, moms, whoever, when I'm working with kids that, oh, my son little Johnny throws 80 miles an hour and he's 12 years old. Oh, sometimes I doubt that, but good for him. How's his command? How's his mechanics? Does his arm hurt all the time? Things like that are more important to me than what the gun shows right away. Velocity will come and shows up when your fundamentals are right, not before. Myth number three, if you don't start early, you're behind. In today's landscape of youth baseball, it feels like if you're not playing on three different travel ball teams, going to 50 tournaments a year, that you're behind, you're missing opportunity, you're missing development. Some of the best players that we've seen didn't specialize early. They were multi-sport athletes. They developed later on, late bloomers, whatever it may be. But that's a myth that if you don't start early, you're behind. And baseball, more than any sport, I feel like rewards patience. Okay, we're moving on to a segment I like to call Calls to the Bullpen, which is where I'm going to read questions that listeners have sent in and we'll answer them on air here. First question coming in from Mike from Arizona. Mike asks, is baseball actually in a good place right now? This is a really good question. If you listen to sportscasters on ESPN, other networks, you'd think baseball was dying. But my opinion, I think baseball's in a great place right now. Ratings are good. There's parity in the league. Yeah, I think baseball's in a great spot right now. Next question from Chris from San Diego. He asks, are the new rules helping or hurting the game? So I've mentioned this before. I was very anti-rule change. I'm a baseball purist, I guess you could say. Thought it was fine the way it was. However, I'm starting to turn the corner on some of these things. I think overall, the rules are helping. Now, I could do without bigger bases, the disengagement. Shift rule seems a little silly to me. However, again, overall, I think it is helping the game, to answer the question. Ryan from Ohio asks, why do you think players strike out so much now? That's a really good question. I think this is going to have a lot to do with analytics and the way the game is viewed in today's age. Where a strikeout is one out and a ground ball could be two on a double play. We'd rather play the odds of hitting a home run or double than a ground out or an error. So in a roundabout way, analytics tells us over the course of a long 162 game season, it's better to strike out once in a while than to ground into double plays, end an inning, doing those things. However, I agree that it is very annoying and hard to watch. This happened a lot in the recent playoffs. Runner on third, no outs. You have to get him in. This could have won a few ball games, by the way. And we have a strikeout, a pop out, and then a weak ground ball to end an inning, and the guy's left on third, whatever it may be. So those things absolutely drive me nuts. However, to answer the question, I think it has a lot to do with how players are training and what they're taught as far as analytics go and situational. Okay, Jake from Nebraska asks, should small ball come back and is it? Man, that's a good question. So again, back to the recent playoffs, we saw a couple of really nice bunts laid down that actually had a huge impact on the game. So is it coming back? Yes, but I don't know if it ever left. we just maybe have shift focus back to the last question to right home runs and doubles are more exciting. Um, and but small ball on the regular should come back. Some of this is because pitchers don't hit anymore. Um, but yes, absolutely. I think everyone 1 through 9 should be able to lay down a bunt. It's pretty embarrassing to see some of these pros who, when called upon, aren't able to execute. So to answer the question, is it coming back? Partially. Should it? Absolutely. And last question for today is from Matt from North Carolina. He asks, kind of along the same lines, do analytics take away from the game? Short answer, no. Um, Less short answer, a little bit. I think with the access to analytics, video, information, like immediately after you come off the mound or come back to the dugout or after an at bat. I don't think that takes away from the game. If anything, it adds another layer. But like we've kind of already mentioned, the emphasis and total reliance on numbers has, I think, taken away a little bit from the game. We don't see as much traditional managing happening anymore. The manager looks over at the iPad, similar to NFL, where they look at the analytics, say 4th and 3, says we're going to go. I think that has kind of crept into baseball a little bit, where managers are relying maybe a hair too much on the numbers and what the statistics or analytics tell you to do, as opposed to the feel of the game and making a decision based off of the eye test and what your gut says. I think there needs to be some corroboration of the two. Just my opinion. Okay, that about wraps up this episode. So some really good questions. Talk about some likes and dislikes of youth baseball. We talked about some big moves that are happening in the league right now as we're getting real close to spring training. And we had my brother Kyle on, talk a little baseball, a little Rangers, a little action. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to send in questions to be read, send them to sticksbaseballmedia@gmail.com. That's STIX baseballmedia@gmail.com. I'll try to read all the emails, reply to as many as I can, and we will start answering more questions on the podcast. Thanks again for watching. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe, drop a comment, and we'll have more episodes up for you soon. Thanks, guys.